See.
Oh wait, you're supposed to be looking because people see us.
I'm talking about love. Don't do that.
No.
No.
Hey.
Hello.
I love the fact it surprises us every time.
We froze.
Nuh-uh.
Are we frozen?
Let's see. Let's freeze. Do it this way. There. Now we shouldn't be frozen. Hello?
Could have balls.
I don't know. Can people see us?
I don't know.
Hello.
Hello,
Okay.
everybody.
You're hearing us, apparently.
How are we today? Welcome to Relationship Rehab. I am Lee.
I'm Paul. That's how we are today.
Yeah.
We don't even know where we're at.
I think I'm home.
Yes.
Today is Friday.
We're coupled up.
Yes, we're writers, creators, founders. I hate saying the word founders. Reminds me of a bunch of dipshits we've known.
Yeah, right. That's never a good thing.
That's never a good thing. Anyway, so yes, we're a couple dumb.
Yes, we are.
And couple dumb is about relationships. You are frozen on this end. Not anymore. You know what? Tell her to refresh. Refresh because I did the same thing and it works. Anyway.
Refresh.
R-E-S-H. E-E-S-H.
Thank you.
He's a writer.
I just had a brain fart.
Anyway. Yay, you can see it here.
Oh,
okay, so today is Friday, June 3rd. Today, my in-laws come in. They're here to
Yes.
for Jeannie's graduation, which is on Wednesday. So we are in graduation mode at this point. Handling last minute things. We're having a party for her on Sunday. Dealing with,
Graduation Wednesday
and stuff like that.
Yes.
And I don't have problems with my in-laws. There's no. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have issues with my in-laws. Obviously, where this is relationship rehab. We deal with our relationships. It's just it's stressful.
Yes.
And it's stressful because there is a modicum of entertainment that you have to do. I mean, it's like we love giving parties. We've always enjoyed having people over. Since we've been married, always loved doing that kind of stuff. But my in-laws are more, hands-on-y kind of people, where you have to be like, I'm focusing on you.
Yes.
And
well, they don't come very, very often.
No.
I mean, it's been a couple years since they were here, so
we don't really remember the last time they came.
Yeah. So it is definitely a coming to visit us thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like they give a crap about going to sites in Miami.
Right. Yeah. So we are, for the next week, we'll be hanging out with them and
so it's like entertaining, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the difference between like, if we've had people visit us and stuff in the past where it's like, okay, South Beach is that way, we can go hang out there or Coconut Grove or something. They don't care about any of that stuff. So it's really sitting in the living room and chatting for 7 days. Now, I'm a chat master. I can do this all day long.
See, any
I
other
lose it
time,
after a while.
Right? Any other time, non-stressful times.
Yeah.
This would be no problem.
Yeah.
But Jeannie stuff, moving, packing. I've got 2.5 weeks of school to go.
Angie totally gets us.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's like, can you pick a more fucked up time to come and see us?
Yeah.
We are not at our best until it's actually like 4:45, 5 o'clock that I fell asleep. And it wasn't because of them or anything. I mean, it's like everything is hitting at one time, So
Wait, see, I was just about to say, it's not like it's really their fault that they're coming now. I mean,
I blame Jeannie.
it is the time that they're supposed to be coming.
I blame Jeannie.
It's just more. So go ahead. It's not one thing.
It's not one thing. It's like, I've got, and I speak for me. I can't speak for Paul because he has his own set of stressors, but, something more important.
There.
You give priorities to different things.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a great example. When we were getting married, I think this is a great example because it is. I mean, this is how people see stress and how we create our own stresses. So, in my case, I organized a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And we had like 165, 170 people at our
Mm-hmm.
wedding. And so the place, the church, clothes we all wore, getting everybody where they needed to be, the invitations, everything was on me.
Yes.
Paul's biggest stressor was that somebody may fall
Mm-hmm.
at the wedding.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting there, hoping that the cake from Glendale gets to Torrance on time. And if you're not from Los Angeles, Glendale to Torrance is...
hike.
It's, it's a pretty good drive. I mean, without traffic, it's an hour. So, those kind of little things, little teeny things. So I was more stressed about, obviously the planning of it,
Mm-hmm.
and he was more stressed about the people of it.
Right.
And he didn't want anybody to get embarrassed. And of course, he tells me this, and I'm like totally like, I don't give a crap if anybody falls at the wedding.
Which is interesting that now we do a relationship show because really all of my worries were relationship issues.
No, but your worries were shame issues.
Oh, yeah. But at the time, that was...
Your relationships?
Yeah, those were my relationships were shame issues. I mean,
Yeah.
it was that people weren't embarrassed and that...
But that was so
they were
his mom.
happy.
That was his mom's stress.
Oh, yeah.
That was not... I mean, ask him now if he cares if anybody falls.
No. I've been known to trip people at this point,
I mean, I think that,
because I need to break through.
I mean, I would think that, I think for both of us, a stressor is always like for Jeannie. Because Jeannie is blind.
Yes.
Jeannie is a little bit clumsy, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Jeannie can't, we've lived in this house for 16 years, and she can't seem to get from the living room to her bedroom, which is like a straight shot. I mean, I could see her bedroom from this room without smacking her arm, one of her arms on the wall.
Yeah. She navigates it like she's doing bumper cars.
Exactly. Well, she's blind. She has no depth perception. So, but it's still, then you're like, oh God, please don't let anything happen to her at the graduation. Okay. But that's creating a stress that I have no control over.
But I have to admit, Jeannie right now is actually our...
Hello.
Speaking of stressors.
Actually, no. He's been very good.
Yeah, he has.
He has been very good.
Yes, okay. Stop making the faces, though. Because, see, other people can see you. You realize that, don't you?
And you see, someone just said, hi, cutie, and she lives far away.
Right.
Say hi.
Say hi.
Hi, okay, get out.
Fingers out. Okay,
Fingers out.
Scram, go watch TV.
Scramate.
Go. Other people are watching this too.
So, yeah, that's...
But yes, Jeannie is our...
Sorry.
Our foundational stressor, if you will. Yeah.
I mean, these are all like personal things. We'll get into like, stress stuff in a second, but, if you are a parent of a special needs child, let's say you start out with one, like we did, it's kind of like when you're playing baseball, and I like using baseball metaphors because I enjoy playing baseball. Like when you're playing baseball and you put the donut on the bat and you're swinging with the donut on the bat with that extra weight, put like a 2-pound donut or a 5-pound donut on that thing. And you're swinging with that, and then you take the donut off, so when you go up to swing, you swing really, really hard because you're expecting that extra weight. That's what parenting is like when you have a regular kid, because you just are just so, you already have that, I'm used to that extra stressor. So with these guys, with our boys, it's like,
Ricky,
I think that they get too much from us
out here
because of that. Yes, we've been parenting with a donut on our head.
Yeah, so my plan for the boys when they go to college is, hey, make sure you go to college.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with Jeannie,
You're on
it's
your
like,
own.
Paul and I got to school. We didn't know each other back then, but I went to college because I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
My parents didn't do dick for me. I mean, really, like not at all.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I was in graduate school, there was like a moment between. There was like a few weeks between my financial aid stuff and actually getting the money, but I needed to get like a few thousand. That was like $4,500. I remember. See, memory never fails. That I needed that much money and I was so stressed. And I really needed that money because it was money was coming in late and I couldn't start my last semester for my master's and all this. And I asked my parents for money, just for a few weeks, and they said no. So I handled it. I handled myself. And then it was like after I handled, they were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me help you." It's like, "Oh, fuck you. I handled myself." Stress is stress, and you deal with your stress. Now, Jeannie is special. Now, with our boys, we're not going to have to deal with that.
Right. They'll come with their own stressors. We're not naive. We know better.
I know. I mean, it's not like they're going to be a cakewalk, but in comparison with Jeannie, I mean...
Oh, they can see at least.
Yeah, that helps. It helps. Well, actually, maybe not because we might have to get them glasses.
Yeah, that's.
What the hell's that about? It's like the Reyes-Fournier kids came up with reflective eyes.
Not right now.
You're not going to eat it. Go away.
Scram.
Stress.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's going on with us. Anything else? Ginny party on Sunday. Blah 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 blah. We have less than 2 months before we're out of here. We've been looking at places in California, and we're like kind of like settling on a couple places that we like, and so that's an added stressor.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? My mother's doing the whole "when are you leaving?" and then I'll give her the date, and then she'll do the whole.
Oh yeah, her face was tough the other day. It was kind of sad.
I mean, somebody ran over her puppy. It was like, I'm not looking at you.
Yes. Yeah, I'm good with when my mother-in-law has the histrionic kind of thing, because then you can dismiss
and my mother tends to be like goes to the mean. She says like, "Fine, leave me. I don't care."
Right. That you can kind of dismiss outright, but when she's actually genuinely sad, and you see it in her face, that one was like, oh.
It's like oh
look,
look what the kids are doing.
And she was being good. She was like trying to hold her shit together in the whole bed.
And she didn't say anything mean or anything.
No.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, that one was sad.
So oh, it's like my older sister. Well, I only have one older sister. She's not even going to be in town when we leave. Mm-hmm. Kind of planned that thing out perfectly. My brother is actually even considering leaving town too. And I'm like, the hell with you people, I mean, but my brother is actually doing things like, going to visit us and is already planning that stuff, planning the trip. Yeah. So
he's actually doing things like asking when we're going to get there so that he can have the trip kind of back into us first getting there. It's so like, funny. Okay.
Whereas my sister keeps, doing this Jedi thing of like, you don't want to leave. It's like, yeah, I do. I really do. You have no idea how much I want to leave. So this week is about stress. Next week is going to be about balance.
Yes.
And finding the balance, as we struggle to find our balance. So what's up with the stress? How are we going to deal with the stress? One of the things that we've been able to do, I mean, if this would have been, let's say, 10 years ago, we wouldn't be doing this, obviously, but we would be really just little puddles of nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know how to handle stress before. I mean, the way we handled stress before was completely unhealthy. Usually, it would involve me definitely I wouldn't sleep at all. And the last night thing, it's not the fault of the stress that I didn't sleep. I have very messed up sleep patterns. I'm a perimenopausal girl. So the sleep thing kind of messes up.
There's a cyclic nature to your not sleeping also.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and this happens to be my time. And I was falling asleep and the dog woke me up, which of course is just a bad thing for me. Once I'm asleep, you cannot wake me up. Or if I'm falling asleep, don't.
That first 45 minutes for her
is really bad.
Yeah.
Is
not
crucial.
That I know anything about her sleeping patterns or anything of that sort.
Well, you should. So we didn't know how to handle it. But now, one of the things that
if any of you coffee people want to sponsor us, I'm going to go get some coffee.
There you go.
Go ahead.
So one of the things that really helped us with stress is learning our sympathetic system, our autonomic nervous system. We've talked about it before here, and this is the system that basically controls shock. And you either go into sympathetic shock or parasympathetic shock. So when you are stressed, when you have stress on you, you go into sympathetic or parasympathetic shock. Sympathetic shock is the fight response, and parasympathetic response is the flight response. The fight response would be getting yourself into action mode and to dealing with things, and this is not necessarily better than the other one, it's just a way of dealing with it. The parasympathetic one tends to be less active, more, obviously if you're doing flight, you're either running away from the stressor or you're ignoring the stressor and numbing out to the stressor. And obviously neither of these necessarily deal with the stress. I mean, just because you go into work mode, to fight the stress, fighting stress is creating stress.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily help you. However, because we go into these responses, this is how we perpetuate stress in our systems. Human beings, like 75 to 90% of their lives in shock.
Yes.
Okay? And actually there's a book about shock out, I forgot what it was called. But once you learn about shock and the way that it affects your system, like for example, heart attacks. Cardiologists know that most people who suffer heart attacks have suffered a loss within the last month before the heart attack. Okay? That's pretty significant because obviously the loss. Did you hear that? Some weird thing. The loss is, obviously you're responding to it with shock.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is you just go into complete disbelief or you go into anger or, loss is loss and loss is a pain and the loss sends your whole body into shock. And shock is also a medical condition, where the blood ends up being places you don't need it to be. And because of those kind of things, you put stress on your heart.
Realize there's a lot of science behind stress. It's been researched a lot. Scientists have been poking little rats and watching them, putting them under stress and watching what they do. There are physiological changes that happen to your brain.
Right.
Long-term stress will permanently change your brain.
Right. And cause brain damage.
Yeah.
I mean
it causes...
It causes brain damage.
Right.
It causes
depression.
Right.
I mean, that is a
causes
big
depression.
one.
It also causes muscle atrophy.
Mm-hmm.
It, for people who are in a chronic stress cycle, you will find that, like these muscles right here, when you find somebody with really tight muscles, when you have that, your whole body obviously follows suit. So upper back pain, lower back pain, things like that. And when you have upper back pain and lower back pain, you tend to not move a lot, and when you don't move a lot, you gain more weight, blah, 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 and it just keeps going and going and going. So
I do need to point out, when Lee and I use the word cause That's a
big deal.
Yes.
You know, when you study psychology, you tend to stay away from words like cause. Mm-hmm. And when you are a science and when you know the scientific method, you don't use the word cause. Right. Unless you could really, create that independent variable that you can manipulate. Mm-hmm. We don't talk about things like that.
So causality means that you actually know how and why it's happening.
For example, when they say that smoking causes cancer, technically not so.
Yeah.
It's correlated. Mm-hmm. You can't say those things. I'm not saying that smoking is not bad for you. I'm saying smoking is very bad for you.
Right.
But the cause, scientifically, you cannot say that. Right. They have never, proven that through scientific method.
They would need to actually show you how the tar gets
into your lungs
and creates a cancerous cell that perpetuates itself.
Right. But that's not saying that coupledom endorses smoking in any way. So,
So when we're saying cause here,
that's a big deal.
We are actually saying that stress, that they actually see the causality between stress and the changing of the brain.
And stress and heart attacks.
And heart attacks.
Yeah. So stress is one of those psychological topics that we know about.
Yeah.
Really a therapist who doesn't know about stress, go to somebody else. Obviously, they live on the moon. So
I said they've been torturing little rats for a long time.
In all sorts of nasty ways.
Sneaking up on them, going boo!
Or putting balloons up their butts.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why they look
very
surprised.
stressful.
Okay.
Yes.
So as I open up a fruit roll up.
Take off the
fruit.
Yes, we will. Yes. He actually doesn't like the fruit roll-ups to have the fruit on the paper.
No.
No, because then you can't eat it.
Yeah. And he doesn't really eat it like other kids.
Yeah.
So anyway, knowing when you go into shock is a big deal. And dealing with your shock is a big deal. How do you do that? You wonder. Come here. Move. Hey, enough.
Stop. Not funny.
So, how do you deal with your shock? Well, one of the ways to know that you're in shock is when something happens, obviously, and you get that hot and cold feeling. You know what feeling I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. That, like someone just threw a glass of water on you. Okay? Ricky? I'm about to throw a glass of water on you. Yeah.
Relax.
So, these things are disgusting.
Really
I don't know why kids eat this crap.
Unless you'd like to sponsor us.
And then go ahead. We love it. Yeah, we've become even more whores than we were before.
It's bad. Anyway,
so
hot and cold.
Hot and cold. Okay.
Go on TV.
So, or you get the chills. What else? What are the other sides?
Well, there's a certain
physiological things like going pale, things like that.
Lips go
numb. Fingers tingle, things like that. You're going into shock. Yeah. Now, this doesn't mean that this is like the medical shock where you just do the whole, oh my God, I can't do anything. Sometimes when, that's parasympathetic shock. That's what people recognize as shock. Mm-hmm. The other form of shock is sympathetic shock, where you actually fight back. Mm-hmm. Like, when a kid screams and you scream back at him. That's sympathetic shock. Still shock. Mm-hmm. Okay, your heart starts racing when you get scared. That is shock. Mm-hmm. And so ways to deal with it.
Hey, quick side note, just because you mentioned it, another of those, they've studied this a lot thing. Children, out of everybody, can throw especially a mom, into shock like that. The sound of a baby crying, any baby crying, will drive generally a woman crazy.
Right. Physiological.
That is a physiological right down to the nerve system. And
in fact, we were watching TV like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And on the show that we were watching, there was a baby crying in the background.
South Park.
It was South Park.
It's not like
it was South Park. You're right.
There wasn't even content behind it.
Right, and
it was just a baby.
And it was Ike crying, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, because it was
the Canadian one. It was Canadian royal wedding. Anyway, so it's Ike crying in the background, and I couldn't be in my skin. Okay, I can't deal with it. And because I'm aware of my shock thing, it's like, okay, it's driving me nuts. So how do you deal with it? You drink cold liquids. Mm-hmm. You do things to get yourself back in your body. One of the things that happens with shock is that you kind of, and it sounds kind of like spiritual mumbo jumbo, but you kind of disconnect. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, psychologically, it's what disassociate.
Yeah, you dissociate. Yeah. Okay, but if you think of it spiritually, it's kind of like your soul kind of like backs up on you. Mm-hmm. Okay, because it's like it scares the wits out of you. Yeah. I mean, there is actual cliches to this. So you back up and you do the whole ooh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In my case, I tend to get pissed, and then it's like hearing the baby cry, get pissed, doing the whole where the hell's the mom? Mm-hmm. Why isn't she dealing with this? For me. When my kids, I could never do the whole, let your kid cry all night kind of thing. I couldn't do that because it would just drive me nuts.
You had to do a bunch with Jeannie. It was tough.
Well, Jeannie was special though. Jeannie.
No, and it was tough.
Yeah, it was very tough.
I got distracted.
Get out of here.
It was definitely,
It was very shocky for me. So anyway, drinking cold liquids, putting something cold in the back of your neck. Some people prefer drinking hot liquids. I mean, like when we wake up in the morning, a hot cup of coffee, why do we do that? The hot cup of coffee helps you get back in your body. Usually we wake up with shock. What is it? Your alarm wakes you up and you will do the, oh my God. Well, that shock requires soothing. And what is it? Coffee. Okay? And you don't think of it. You're like, oh my God, why is that first cup of coffee so wonderful? Because you get back in your body and you start feeling like a real person. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the things that you've been hearing all your life, the first cup of coffee or, it's like, oh, she got scared, give her something, give her a glass of water. All those things are shock soothing methods. Mm-hmm. This isn't brain surgery, people.
We've learned to do it naturally. I mean, like everything that develops within our bodies. Right. We've learned to take care of them in a natural way.
So now we know with shock. Now, the more you recognize your shock, the more you're going to be able to deal with your shock in such a way to alleviate your stress. Right. Okay? Now, second thing, time. Now, of course, if you're going to notice that I'm going to actually go through the word stress because I'm fun like that and I can do things like that because I'm smart.
Now we're at T.
T for time.
Oh.
For time. Now, what stress? Time is the friend or foe of stress. Time could either really just help you ignore the stress, making it really, really bad, or time can give you enough leeway to be able to look at it differently, be able to disassemble the stress. And in some cases, spin it. Here's the crisis. Here's something that happened, or here's something that's happening. How do you spin it to be something positive? In therapy, we call that a reframe. Good therapists can reframe anything, from death to winning the lottery. All of it can be reframed. Okay. It's about looking at it, and seeing the positive of it. Mm-hmm. And
I mean, let's look at a little of the fluffy philosophy of it. Every stressor of your life has created the person that you are now.
Right.
So
every adversity is really an opportunity.
Yes. So how can you say that it's bad? Because you're a wonderful person.
But when you're in it, you can't see it.
Yeah,
Time
and a good reframe.
Yeah, time and a good reframe makes you go, you know what? I'm so happy this happened to me.
Right.
It's like when they say time heals all wounds, they're not kidding. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we say to gay and lesbian kids, it gets better. It does get better if you want it to, and if you reframe it to. Okay. Mm-hmm.
You want me to cut it?
It's a choice. It's a choice to live drama-free or pain-free. So if you want to be all angsty and oh my God, my life's a big then go ahead. Have at it. It's your life. Go for it. I choose not to. So should I look at the fact that my daughter's going to be 3 states away from us when she goes to college as something horrible, like my mom's doing right now. My mom, since I'm leaving, it's the, oh my God, you're my right hand. Oh my God, you're this. Oh my God. She can't get to the reframe because she's not allowing herself to, because she's getting too much, she's getting too much recompense from her friends and stuff, saying, oh, good, oh, you poor baby, your little girl's leaving you, what a bitch she is, blah, 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 blah. So when she gets past all that crap, maybe she could reframe it. For me, Jeannie's going 3 states away. This is going to be a great opportunity for her. It's going to be an opportunity for us to explore a different part of the country that we've never seen before, or, been to before, except for the airport. So,
I mean, I must admit, I've got to hand it to your brother, because he has taken a lot of this and really has reframed it into a vacation opportunity.
Right.
He's looking at Colorado going, cool, we can go skiing, we can go there, we'll take an RV, we'll do, I mean,
yeah,
it's a helpful refrain.
Yeah. And that's funny because he was one of the last holdouts. He kept telling people that we weren't really moving up until like 2 or 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. And as soon as he did the whole, oh wow, you're moving, then he started reframing.
Exactly.
But you can't reframe until you accept it.
Yes.
It's like
then it's called denial.
Yeah, exactly. You can't reframe in denial.
Yeah.
And sure you could make it go, it didn't happen. That's not a reframe.
Right. No.
You have to accept it. You have to acknowledge it to be able to reframe it. Yes. This weekend my mom and dad are going on a cruise, and my mom put my grandmother in an ALF, in an assisted living facility for the weekend. Now, we've been trying to get her to do this for a while.
Yeah.
I may have mentioned on this show before that I have issues with my grandmother. She wasn't much of a grandmother. And she wasn't much of a human being, let's say. So having my mother and father get saddled with her in her deteriorated old age pisses me off, pisses my brother and sister off as well. So we've been saying, put her away. As my parents get older, we don't want them to be saddled with this old woman.
And to be honest, they can't take care of her.
My grandmother is 88.
Yeah.
She's 88? Yeah, she's 88. Yeah. Now, I had my other grandmother. She died at 93. But she wasn't a royal pain in the ass.
No.
And
she actually had a life.
Yeah, exactly. She actually traveled up until like a few months before she died. So...
And if you stuck her in with a bunch of people, she'd
talk your ear off,
Yeah.
And this one, basically all she does is sleep and do things that she's not supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So, long story short, my mother actually put her in an ALF. As soon as she agreed to do it, she did the whole, and then went, hey, this is a pretty good thing, and these people are really good. And she started reframing herself, and my father even, because my father, for all the selfish, Hispanic male stuff that he's got going, he's always been really good. No, it doesn't benefit my mother at all. Mm-mm.
We'll say there is some benefit. It would be a psychological one that would take up a whole nother show, But yeah, there's not really
there's no benefit for her.
Yeah.
It's really just being a royal pain in the ass to her. My grandmother, I think I've mentioned it here a couple months ago. My mom shows up on a Sunday because usually they visit us on Sunday, and she's got 18 stitches in her head because the night before she had been in the emergency room because she had slipped on the floor because grandmother had clogged the toilet again because she used a whole roll of toilet paper because she's losing it. And my mother slipped and, got 18 stitches in the back of her head. Back in August, my grandmother fell in her bedroom, broke her arm, and my parents couldn't lift her up. My dad is, 70 something, and my mom is 60. She's going to be 70. She's going to be 70 in a few days. They shouldn't be lifting a woman off the floor. They should be enjoying themselves. And that was my dad's thing last night. He kept saying, we don't have a life. Well, because of that is their stressor. Now they get to reframe, wow, look how nice our weekend is because we don't have to deal with her. So I'm hoping when they get back, they just leave her in the AM. Anyway, so the R, rest, sleep. One of the things we tend to do when we're stressed is we think that if we stay up, we could deal with the stress. We choose to have the perseverative thoughts. Perseverative thoughts are the thoughts that, keep rolling around. It's perseveration or rumination. Rumination, if you know what the word really means, is, a cow ruminates. Chewing on cud is called rumination. Those are ruminants. Cows are considered ruminant animals because they chew constantly.
Basically, they swallow it, and then they cough it back up and chew on it a little bit more, and then swallow
That's
it.
That's what perseveration is. That's that repetitive. Just I'm just gonna keep needling away at this one thought. That is very unhealthy. That is the major cause of persistent stress in the population. It's the idea that if I worry about it, I can figure it out. Well, no, that's not how it works. You really need to detach yourself from it to figure it out.
And that is one of those common misconceptions that worrying is doing something.
Yeah. My father thinks that. He's like, well, what are you going to do? But it's like, well, no, we'll get to that. No, I don't want to. I really don't. And not that we're not worrying kind of people, so of course we are. But we find that if you make the list, you can let it go. And I don't need to think about it because it's on my list. I'll get to it when I get to it, and that's that. So it's not like it doesn't, doesn't sit there and, remind me every now and then. Sure, but, that's one of the things that goes to the next one.
Okay.
The E, ego. Your ego makes you do things to help you save face, to help you maintain a reputation that really doesn't exist. A reputation is, something that we've created to control, to make our ego seem very important. But it's all bullshit. Okay? Our ego isn't there to protect us. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, it's supposedly there to protect our psyche, but the reality is that it doesn't protect our health. It might make us look good, but it doesn't necessarily make us feel good. Get the difference? It's like, everything's okay with Lee and Paul. Meanwhile, I'm dying inside. That kind of thing. It's like,
oh no.
No, I'm only kidding. It's for the show. It's for the ratings. Sure, one of the things that people do who practice like Eastern philosophies and stuff like that, one of our missions in these things is to really kill the ego, is to not give the ego any more power. When you say things like, I don't really care what people think, that is trying to be egoless. Care what people think, that is all ego.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because you're linking yourself to what you don't care about.
Exactly. So the idea is to, be mindful and to remember that you're not that your body is just a house for your soul. That yourself, as we talk, we talk about that like in Hinduism and stuff like that. The self is really the soul, and the soul is something that's limitless, and all that good stuff. And it doesn't really give a crap about the tangible. Mm-hmm. And because of that, you could be mindful of things, and you could do things just to forward the soul and to forward the mission of the self. So when you're doing things like that, the ego really means absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. And, maintaining your integrity and being mindful of what you do. It's like when you do things, it's like, is this forwarding myself or forwarding my ego? I mean, obviously, if we're doing a web show, we have a lot of ego. I'm not saying that we don't. Oh, yeah. But hopefully, something that we can transmit through this medium is the idea that you don't have to be all about this, and it could be about this. And when it's about this, stress doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. The self sees everything as an opportunity. The self doesn't have, it's not about positive or negatives. It's all opportunity. So, being mindful, mm-hmm. being selfless. When we say selfless, I'm not talking about soul self. I'm talking about not thinking about you. Mm-hmm. And when you're thinking about you, you're thinking about ego. I mean, it gets very complicated. But if you think of the ego as something is actually something separate from you, and the self is actually you, that's really what we're talking about. The ego is this persona, is this face out here. And it's not this. Because this doesn't care about this. And so...
Well, the thing is that, you're doing... Are you going back to mindfulness, by the way?
Yeah, go ahead and say it.
Oh, okay. No, it's just one of the big kind of buzzwords now in therapy is mindfulness therapy.
Right.
That is, it's basically because it's proving to be extremely effective against most of the psychological issues that people have right now. And, from that point of view, what you're looking at is you're looking at what things cause you stress. So what are your triggers, and where you are in the world. Kind of just finding your spot in the world, and then the other part of it is meditating, keeping yourself centered, so that you know what bothers you, you know where you are in relationship to everything else, and then you center yourself. And then you can move forward. That's kind of the idea of doing this every day, kind of starting out your day that way, giving yourself a few moments. They are finding it drops your stress level, it drops your blood pressure, it is extremely effective against depression. Mm-hmm. That was really, I think that was the research that made everybody go, whoa!
It's extremely effective against stress-related illnesses,
right.
Which are depression, mm-hmm. and heart disease and high blood pressure and things like that.
But it was the depression one is the reason why it became such a big deal right there is because it's as effective as medication.
Right.
So that was, old school people, the doctors like to give the medication, and the mindfulness therapist, if you will, basically went, we're going to go even old schooler. We're going to go and say, meditate.
Right.
And that worked even better.
And it's funny. Well. And it's funny because, when we think about things in the Western world, here in the United States, think of this, this has been around.
Yep.
Okay. And now for those of you who are Christian, I don't want to piss you off or anything like that. And I just want to point out that Jesus was extremely mindful.
Mm-hmm.
That's, one of the beautiful parts about the Jesus story. And I'm not saying it's a story that people made up. I'm just saying, his story.
Right.
that there's mindfulness in everything he did, and there's mindfulness in the gurus, you know, in the middle of India. It's the idea of just centering yourself, of thinking of self, you know, without relation to the world. You know, what is the mission of yourself? Do you even know? And it's like it's not what is the meaning of life in general. That who cares what that is? The meaning of what yourself is. You know, what's your purpose? And getting clear about what that is. So,
which leads us to the next letter.
Sex.
Isn't that great?
See, I like to switch it up with you.
Yeah.
Get all zen and you know, centered and, you know, chanty, and then go into sex because that
is my mission in life.
That is your mission in life,
right.
to be a stud.
Yeah.
No one go there at all.
None at all.
Doesn't need it.
Here's
the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I would never be one to recommend, prescribe an addictive act to alleviate another, symptom. However, sex is so good at alleviating stress that it's hard not to put, you got two S's there at the end of stress. Sex had to be one of them. Sex, one of the good things about sex is that you are forced to focus on something else.
Right.
And this is the part of sex that people don't understand. People just think about the part about the orgasm. Yes, the orgasm releases endorphins and all that other stuff. But one of the good, but the most important part about sex is that it makes you mindful. It makes you centered. It makes you just think about what's going on now. It makes you present. Stress is something that happens in the future or in the past. It does not happen now. So, sex makes you in the now. Therefore, you cannot be stressed when you have sex. And as soon as you come, you can go back to your stress. But for that little, for those minutes that you're able to have fun, it's good for you. And also, when you release endorphins, it makes you think clearer. It makes you realize that it's not that important.
Makes you think happier.
It kind of washes away the negativity for a little while, and it makes you look at things in a reframe.
Right.
And realize the severity is not as big as we build it to be. Yes, death is a horrible thing. Yes, change can be very stressful. Getting fired, losing money, all these things, extremely stressful.
Take your stuff and get out of here now.